Hello everyone, today we're going to be interpreting slopes and intercepts in real-world problems. I'm going to be helping you a little bit today, but mostly this lesson is going to be done on your own because I've taught you how to graph, how to write an equation, and how to get those points and how to use those points. So this should be doable, but I'll help you a little tiny bit. Starting off, we have this situation. Jack and Jill are traveling for 3 hours at rates described in these tables. Complete each table and write an equation for the driver showing the distance traveled at 30-minute intervals. The important part is that we're going to use 30-minute intervals and the time is being measured in hours. So let's make a text box to fill in X. We're going to start with 0, then we're going to be going by 30 minutes, but we're counting in hours. 30 minutes is half of an hour, so I'm going to put 0.5, then 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. And I'm going to copy this table, paste it, and drag it over here. Both people are going to be using the same times, both Jack and Jill. The difference is Jack is traveling at 35 miles per hour. Jack is going at 35 miles per hour, but if he hasn't traveled, if the time is 0, he's just barely starting his watch and he's about to put his foot down on the gas, then he hasn't moved at all, 0 miles. If he goes 35 miles in an hour and he's only gone half of an hour, then he is going to go half of 35. Well, half of 36 would be 18, so half of 35 is going to be half of a number less than 18, which is 17.5. At 1 hour, he would have gone 35 miles. At 1.5 hours, he would have gone 35 plus another 17, which would be 52.5 miles. At 2 hours, he would have gone 35 miles for the first hour, 35 miles for the second hour, so 35 times 2 makes 70. At 2.5, he'll go 70 plus how long he goes in a half hour, which is 17.5. That would make 87.5, and for 3 hours he would go 35 times 3, which is 105. To solve this with a calculator, this would be direct variation. This would say y equals kx, and k would be 35, so you would just do 35 times each one of these numbers in your calculator, and that's how you get the distance traveled. But I'm not using a calculator. Let's make an equation. Make an equation for Jack. I told you this was going to be direct variation. So we're going to put y equals, these are the x's, and what did we multiply x by? By 35. So we'll do 35x. Then you make the equation for Jill. How does the distance from Jack compare to the distance of Jill in the same time interval? So you're going to answer this, I won't, but I'll just tell you what to look for. And the same time interval means, like, from 0 to 1 hour, Jack traveled 35 miles, from 0 to 1. That's 0 to 35. Jill, though, for 0 to 1 hours, traveled 55 miles. How does 35 compare to 55? You tell me here. What's going on with their distances? They're using the same time, but something is happening with the distances. Tell me about it in that box. I want you to graph both of those people's data. Red for Jack, green for Jill. I think the easiest way to do this would be put a couple dots for each person using the shape tool. So I know that one of the dots for Jack is going to be at 1 hour, he went 35. So we're going by 20s. That means halfway is going to be a 10, and half of a half is going to be a 5. So I'm going to go 1, then above this line will be 35. Once you have that down there, we're going to change the fill and we're going to make it red. And that red dot is going to be for Jack. We would use a green dot for Jill. You got 55 for Y. Jill's are going to be in green. Make a couple more dots. You could do the 2 and the 3, or you could do some of the half ones if you wanted to. But give it a few more dots, and then make a line. The line should start with the origin and go through your dots. Start with the origin and go through your dots, then change the color of the line. Green for Jill, red for Jack. And also you need to label the equation. So throw in a text box. This was Jill, y equals 55x. Do the same thing for Jack, but add a couple more dots to your lines. In here, I need you to answer these 5 questions. Okay. So for the y-intercept, it's not how do they compare, it's just what is it? What about the x-intercepts? What about the slopes? What do the different slopes mean in real life? And is the data discrete or continuous? A continuous one would mean we connected everything with a line and there were no gaps because decimal answers are okay. A discrete graph means decimal answers in the domain don't make any sense. We can only put specific numbers. Like in this table, we only have specific numbers for the answers, but because of the story, this is somebody driving down a road. You're not teleporting down the road, you're driving, you're moving constantly from one place to the other. So, say continuous or discrete. You can answer these by saying 1, 2, 3, and number your answers so that way I can read it and grade it later. For this next situation, I'll only give you one of the points to help you out, and then the rest of this PowerPoint you'll be able to do on your own. We have a person with 12 students, and some of them are getting driver's licenses, and some of them don't have driver's licenses. We're going to make a table showing the possible combinations of students with and without. So, we have 12 people to pick from, and some of them have licenses, some of them don't. What if we say 0 and 12? It's possible that we'll have 0 people with one way and 12 people the other way. Let's make this one on the left. Students without. Sorry, the Promethean board's a little bit weird today. Let's make the left side the students without a driver's license, and the right side the students with a driver's license. Now that we've added those labels, 0 here is going to mean nobody does not have a driver's license because there are 12 people with the driver's license. You will need to graph after you make your table. Put these dots on a graph and label the x-axis and the y-axis of that graph. Give that graph a title and fill in until you're out of combinations. Remember, there's only 12 people here, so either everybody has a driver's license or maybe one person does not have a driver's license. If one person of those 12 doesn't have one, then 11 people do have one. And you'll just continue changing these numbers. But the big thing is there's only 12 people total. So between X and Y, the combination has to be able to add to 12 students. After that, you'll interpret what these things mean. You'll answer it the same way you did the first one we did together. Lastly, for today, you're going to copy and paste these cards in order to determine the x-intercepts, y-intercepts, and the slope. And you might have to describe something, but I'm pretty sure there are enough cards to answer almost all of the questions, and then you'll only have to type in a little bit. So we have some situation cards. There's going to be 2 graphs. The first situation is going to be one of the ones that gets a graph, and the 4th situation will also get a graph. The other 2, situations 2 and 3, those ones will only get the descriptions, but no graph to go with it. But let's see if there's a card that says what X represents here. The situation is about a submarine. The submarine already is 700 meters below the surface. So that means it's already down, and then it's ascending, which means that it's starting down and it's going to go upwards at a rate of 35 meters every minute. And let's see if any of these talk about the y-intercept of a submarine. This one says it'll take 20 minutes to reach the surface. This one says the rate of change is 35 meters per minute. This one says it's beginning to go up from 700 below. The question wanted what does X represent, what does Y represent. So these 2 answers you will have to answer with a text box based off of what you put in here for the graph and what's right there. Those other parts that we just read that had to do with the submarine, those are going to go here, and you'll, I think, type in the coordinate. Okay, if you have any questions, come ask me during my office hours from 2 to 3 o'clock today. Good luck.